Hello everybody and welcome to Reacting to Seahawks Hot Takes episode 8, the #1 rated show in America. I am your host, Loki, and today we've got some pretty good hot takes today, and we're going to be going much more in depth than we normally do. Before we get into the video though, I do have a question for everybody watching. I made a community post earlier today that had a poll in it. You might have seen it in your subscription feed, and if you're not subscribed and didn't see it, might as well subscribe, you know. But if you did not see it, there is a poll that is basically asking, should I make Madden 21 videos? Because obviously Madden 21 comes out, I think, next week. And it's going to be a big game. Obviously, I'm probably going to buy that myself and play it, even though I'm not a big fan of Madden. There's nothing else to do right now. And obviously, with this channel, I'm posting every other day content. And I was just thinking maybe I could do the face of the franchise for Madden or anything else that would be requested in Madden on the off days that I'm not actually posting every other day. So it'd be every other day posts of Seahawks content and then Madden in between on those days that I wouldn't be posting. So if you do want to see that, make sure you go ahead and vote in the poll in the community tab of my channel and let me know, or just let me know in the comments. I'll probably be taking feedback from both of those. So yeah, let me know, should I do Madden 21 videos on the off days that I'm not posting every other day? And now for the first hot take of the day, we have Russell Wilson gets sacked less than 20 times and wins MVP. Now I'm about 99% sure that I've talked about a Russell Wilson MVP hot take before in this series, but I didn't really go into depth. Every single time the Russell Wilson MVP gets brought up, I basically just say, you know, Russell Wilson, good player, hasn't won an MVP before, hasn't gotten a vote, so I think he should win it, and then I kind of rush past it, make it quick. But I do want to go into more depth on this. Now, before we get into the MVP talks, I'm basically just going to throw that less than 20 sacks thing out of the window. Russell Wilson hasn't been sacked less than 40 times since his rookie year, which he was sacked over 30 times. And I don't think our offensive line is great. I think it's definitely better than it was last year, or on paper it looks like it could be. But I don't think we're letting up less than 20 sacks. But to get into the MVP talks, Russell Wilson has the third best odds to win the 2020 MVP award when it comes to betting. He has 16-1 odds, whereas Patrick Mahomes has 7-1 and Lamar Jackson have 10-1 odds. Now, it's almost a unanimous thing that these guys are the top three options when it comes to winning the MVP next year. Patrick Mahomes, probably the best quarterback, arguably #1, maybe you could argue for someone else. Lamar Jackson came off an insane season with the Ravens, and you know he's going to have a ton of hype behind him this year. And Russell Wilson, he played great, hasn't had the MVP vote in his entire career, and he's going to have to prove something to these MVP voters if he wants to win MVP. So you know there's a good storyline for all of them. You know, Patrick Mahomes just came off the Super Bowl, Lamar Jackson just broke the quarterback rushing record, and Russell Wilson, he needs to get an MVP vote and maybe even win an MVP. So there's definitely storylines for all these players, and I still think that these are the top three players when it comes to winning the MVP. I think Tom Brady could come in and be a little bit of an underdog when it comes to it, but I do think these are the top three guys. Now, last year, Russell Wilson had over 4,100 passing yards along with 31 passing touchdowns and a career-low 5 interceptions. This allowed him to become an All-Pro for the first time in his career, but he did not get a single vote for the NFL MVP award. Although he didn't get a single vote for the NFL MVP last year, he was named the Pro Football Focus Most Valuable Player. This is due to a statistical metric known as the wins above replacement. Pro Football Focus said that Russell Wilson had 4.08 more wins this season than the average quarterback, whereas Lamar Jackson had 2.29 and Patrick Mahomes had 2.96. Now, I couldn't find the exact definition of what wins above replacement was, but I can only assume it means that if you put an average quarterback in the exact situation that each one of these quarterbacks was in, who won more games than that average quarterback would have won. Now, obviously, all three of the quarterbacks mentioned here are levels above the average quarterback, but if you look at the situations, Patrick Mahomes, great wide receivers, good offensive line, okay running backs. Lamar Jackson, great running backs, great offensive line, pretty good wide receivers. But then you take a look at Russell Wilson's situation. Obviously, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Will Dissly for like 6 games. He had good receivers. He had Chris Carson, good running back in my opinion, but the offensive line, atrocious. You know, if you're getting sacked almost 50 times and over 50 times in the last 2 seasons, you know, I don't think an average quarterback will be able to do what Russell Wilson can do with that situation. Russell Wilson is not the greatest of runners like Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, if he gets out of the pocket and he starts running past the line of scrimmage, he basically becomes another running back out there. He can make moves. He is faster than almost every single player on that field. Russell Wilson, he's not the fastest, he's not the most elusive, but he is very good at moving around in the backfield and, you know, keeping a play alive to try to get his wide receivers open. And I don't think any average quarterback could be able to do that. That's why I think that this wins over replacement thing really puts Russell Wilson higher, because, you know, if you put an average quarterback with such a bad offensive line that Russell Wilson had last year, he's going to be sacked more than 40 something times because he doesn't have the ability to move around in the backfield and try to elongate a play and get his wide receivers open, stay away from pressure, and do what he can with a horrible offensive line. So I think that's why Russell Wilson has such a higher metric than this, and that just shows that Russell Wilson is put into worse situations than these other players that are doing very well along with him, and he is still making plays happen. He's doing very good. Statistically, he's doing well. Team success, he's doing well, and that is the next thing that I want to talk about. Obviously, there are other factors that go into the MVP other than just doing well yourself. Obviously, team success is a huge thing. Jameis Winston had over 5,000 passing yards last season, something that not too many quarterbacks have ever done. We're not even going to get into his 30 interceptions, but his team didn't do well, so they can't give him the MVP. Maybe he got those 5,000 passing yards, which almost no one has ever done. But Patrick Mahomes, when he won MVP, I'm pretty sure he had over 5,000 passing yards, and his team did very well that season. So obviously team success plays a huge role in actually winning the MVP. And Russell Wilson, he couldn't really compete last year with the Ravens going 14-2 and Lamar Jackson breaking the quarterback rushing record. Like Lamar Jackson, he had an unbelievable season. The Ravens had an unbelievable season. They did fail in the playoffs, but they did very well in the regular season, and obviously the MVP is a regular season award. And I'm not upset that Lamar Jackson won the MVP last year. I think Lamar Jackson maybe shouldn't have been unanimous, because I think Russell Wilson definitely did deserve some votes for MVP, but Lamar Jackson, he definitely deserved MVP last year. He had a great team success, a great season, broke records, so he definitely deserved it. But obviously this just shows that team success is something that is very important when it comes to the MVP, and I think Russell Wilson, he's gonna have to step it up this year, especially with the team's wins, to actually have a chance at the MVP. Now, obviously, 11-5 last year is nothing to scoff at. They went to the playoffs, they won a playoff game, and, they got knocked out, but they still had success throughout the season. However, they were number 2 in their division. They are obviously in the toughest division in the NFL, and I think that you can basically say that objectively because there are so many great players in there, especially now that DeAndre Hopkins is with the Cardinals. The Cardinals had a very good offseason. They've been drafting well the last few years. So, I think the NFC West is a very difficult division, and the Seahawks are right in there. Russell Wilson is right in there, and he was number 2 in the division last year, and I don't think you're going to be winning MVP when you're number 2 in your division. And I think Russell Wilson, if he wants to have a very good chance at winning MVP next year, he's going to have to surpass the 49ers, and he's going to have to be the number 1 team in his division. Maybe even getting a first round bye would even help. That's something that I predicted with the Seahawks prediction video that I made a long time ago. I said they go 12-4. I said that the 49ers probably go 11-5 or something, and they're a little bit below. I think that the Seahawks win the division. I think the Seahawks do very well, especially with the upgrades that they've made. They did very well this offseason. They haven't really added to the pass rush, which is something I'll talk about later in the video, but I do think the Seahawks will have a very good season if everything goes as expected and according to expectations. And, I think that would be very good for the Seahawks and Russell Wilson's MVP case, because Russell Wilson gotta be number 1 in the division if you want to win the MVP. I believe he's gonna have to keep those interceptions low. He's gonna have to get a bit more passing yards and a bit more passing touchdowns, I believe, and I think that that's gonna happen. I think Russell Wilson's gonna get a lot more opportunities to pass the ball this year because he has so many weapons around him, and if the Seahawks can find a way to add Josh Gordon, then even more weapons, and I think Russell Wilson will have a great season. I think there is a possibility he wins the MVP, and basically I think team will do good. Team success very important. I think Russell Wilson will continue to do good, and the storyline, Russell Wilson hasn't had an MVP vote in his entire career. I think that's going to be a great storyline going into 2020 that'll even help him propel him higher into the MVP voting ranks, because it's basically like an underdog story. So I think Russell Wilson has a good shot because of all the things that I mentioned. So let me know in the comments what you think, and let's get into hot take number 2. And now for our second hot take of the day, we have the Seahawks secondary will be the best in the NFL. And once again, I believe that I have covered this in a hot takes episode, but I normally brush past it saying, look, we have good players, our pass rush sucks, but we have good players, we'll do good. And today I want to go more in depth on that. Now obviously this offseason, the Seattle Seahawks did not address secondary when it came to the draft, and Quinton Dunbar was added with a pretty big trade, only a 5th round pick. Obviously he had a lot of legal issues, but now he is cleared of those legal issues and he will actually be playing in the 2020 NFL season. Quinton Dunbar will definitely be a big addition to the Seahawks secondary this year because he will come in as a cornerback 2 behind Shaquill Griffin, and that was last year where I believe Trey Flowers was playing, someone with only 2 years of experience playing as cornerback. He definitely did better than he did in his rookie year, but he still wasn't great. He let up some big plays. I think bringing in someone like Quinton Dunbar that's more consistent than Trey Flowers and has a lot more experience at cornerback to be the cornerback 2 is definitely going to be a big addition, something that really helps. probably stops a lot of the big plays that Trey Flowers would give up. Trey Flowers did make some big plays last year, and he showed big improvement, but obviously he's still proving himself. He's still learning how to play cornerback, and I think bringing in someone to be a cornerback 2 that's more reliable will be a big help. And now Trey Flowers, who's going to continue to progress, will be a cornerback 3, and I think that will be huge. Trey Flowers in 2020 will be going into his 3rd NFL season and his 3rd season playing cornerback. He came out of college as a safety, and the Seahawks moved into cornerback because it fit their needs, and it continues to fit their needs. And obviously, he's progressed quite a bit. He went from his first year having 0 interceptions. He's not doing too great, letting up a lot of big plays. He had 3 interceptions, still letting up big plays last year, but 3 interceptions, he's making up for some of the big plays that he is letting up by making big plays himself. And I think he's only going to continue to progress. I think Shaquill Griffin was talking about how, he looks a lot better coming into training camp, and he wants to get better. He wants to continue to improve, and that's a great thing to see. And as a cornerback 3, I think if he continues to improve, it'll definitely be a big help, because last year, cornerback 2, he did okay. He made some big plays, he let up some big plays, but as cornerback 3, he'll definitely have a lot more leniency in covering a worse wide receiver who might not create the biggest of plays when he is making a mistake. And he can maybe make some more big plays by, getting some interceptions, doing pretty well on the team. So I have high hopes for Trey Flowers, and I really do think he'll continue to progress and continue to get better. As a cornerback 3, he'll have a lot less weight on his shoulders, and he'll have a lot more room to grow since he can make those mistakes with less talented wide receivers he will be covering. And now, before we get into the meat of our secondary, the safeties, I want to talk a little bit about Ugo Amadi. Now, Ugo Amadi didn't play a ton last season, and John Schneider has said that he wants Ugo Amadi to play a little bit more nickel corner this season. And I think that he's going to get some more opportunities, and he's going to probably be a much lesser used cornerback option, and he's still super young. He's only going into his 2nd season, and just like Trey Flowers, I think he is a young player who could definitely have a good potential to grow into the Seattle scheme and be a consistent starter later on when Quinton Dunbar isn't with the team. And I think that, Trey Flowers, if he can continue to progress, Ugo Amadi, if he can progress, and Shaquill Griffin would be a very good 3 cornerbacks. And obviously, we'd still be bringing people in and out at the cornerback room. So I think Ugo Amadi, Trey Flowers will definitely be 3 and 4 cornerback options this year. And I think as young players, they'll continue to grow. And I think that's something great for Seattle. Seattle definitely does well at, keeping young players that can grow and fit into a starter role. And I think that's something that's great. I think Trey Flowers and Ugo Amadi definitely have the potential to do that. It's just up to them to actually work, progress, get better, and actually be able to fill those roles. And now we get into the fun part of our secondary, the safeties. Now, first, I'm going to be talking about Quandre Diggs. Last year, he made some big plays. He got traded to Seattle for not too much, honestly. Seattle making some good trades to get some safeties. Obviously, Jamal Adams, we gave up quite a bit, but Quandre Diggs, he was definitely a good player last year, made some big plays. Didn't seem like he gave up too many big plays. He played very well, had some big plays. I think that he'll definitely be a very good part of our secondary as the free safety spot. And now to get into the most hyped up spot of our secondary, we have Jamal Adams at strong safety. Now, I was talking about Bradley McDougald every other time I talk about the secondary, that Bradley McDougald is definitely the big question mark. He doesn't seem like he is supposed to be there, because the Seattle Seahawks, they had Marquise Blair. He was kind of getting old, Bradley McDougald was. His contract was a bit weird, and there were so many talks about, getting Jamal Adams that we don't know what Bradley McDougald could be next year. And it actually turned out that he was going to get traded for Jamal Adams, and now Jamal Adams is here. And Jamal Adams, obviously everybody knows Jamal Adams, super talented, superstar, young, and I think he's going to make a huge impact for this team. I think he's going to be able to be sort of like a Cam Chancellor, sort of like an Earl Thomas. And I think that obviously he has to continue to grow. He's still young. He's still going to be getting better, and he's already so good. He's going to be playing almost every single place on the field, and in coverage he'll do well, and he makes great open field tackles. So, he's not going to be letting people get behind him too often, and he's going to be able to help in the pass rush. He's going to be helping in the run stopping. So obviously I think Jamal Adams is going to be a huge addition to this team. It's up to, the Seahawks defensive coordinator, Pete Carroll, on how they'll be using him. But I do think if they use him right, he'll make a huge difference to this defense, and I think that will do very well. And, the secondary is looking really good on paper. On paper, it's one of the best secondaries in the league, in my opinion. When you just look at the players like Shaquill Griffin, good cornerback 1. Quinton Dunbar, good cornerback 2. Trey Flowers, iffy, but definitely a good cornerback 3 when it comes down to it, because he's still young. And then when you look at the safeties, you have Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams, 2 great safeties who seem to have a great chemistry. And, on paper, it just looks really good for the Seahawks secondary, but there definitely is one big problem, and that is the pass rush. Now, everyone watching this video probably already knows that the pass rush is basically undoubtedly the worst part of the defense for the Seattle Seahawks. And, you know, the secondary is great. The linebackers are very, very good, but the pass rush is just not there. And now that Griffin has signed with the Cowboys, we lost another option that we could possibly add to the pass rush. So it's just looking pretty questionable going into next year. There's still a chance that, you know, maybe Jadeveon Clowney gets really, really desperate and signs to a cheap deal with the Seahawks, but I don't think that that's going to happen. But, you know, the pass rush is definitely an important part of the secondary because, you know, obviously they're not playing in the secondary, but if they're not getting pressure on the quarterback, then how is the secondary going to cover a wide receiver who's just running around back and forth trying to get themselves open while their quarterback has no pressure on him? He's just sitting in the pocket and he's just waiting for his wide receivers to make a move on a cornerback and eventually get open. Now, obviously, you know, the pass rush has to get to the quarterback. They have to rush the quarterback, which is their job, so that the corners have a better, you know, chance of covering their wide receivers. Because if a wide receiver has 5 seconds or 10 seconds somehow to do whatever he wants and make any moves that he wants, there's almost no way that a cornerback's going to be covering him that entire time. Just, you know, unless it's like a Stephon Gilmore who is absolutely insane. I don't think that, you know, Shaquill Griffin or Quinton Dunbar is going to be sticking on a wide receiver who is basically just making it up as he goes, because there's no way you can predict someone who doesn't know what their next move is. You know, so honestly, the pass rush definitely needs to do well this season. I've said it multiple times that if this pass rush can at least be above average, that I think our secondary will be okay. But if we are at a point like we were last season where the pass rush is the second worst in the league, I don't know how good these on paper players, the great linebackers and the great secondary that we have, will do if our pass rush is just non-existent. So honestly, we have great players on paper when it comes to the secondary, when it comes to the linebacker spots, but the pass rush is definitely a big problem, and they're going to have to play well. They're going to have to play average or above average at the minimum for our team to be successful this year. And with that, that's going to do it for this video. I only did 2 hot takes today because, you know, I wanted to go much more into depth about, you know, 2 of the most important hot takes in my opinion. And let me know in the comments what you think about those. Make sure you go to the poll in my community tab on my channel and vote in the poll on if I should make Madden 21 content when that drops or not. And, you know, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. Subscribe to my second channel. I'm going to be posting 2K21 content over there, some NBA content, some personality-based content, and some video games content, and everything in between on that channel. And follow me on Twitch. I'm going to start streaming sometime in September because I don't want to kind of put myself on a schedule too early because school is going to be starting soon. I want to see how that goes. But, you know, with that, go ahead and support me in all those venues. And with that, thank you for watching. Have a great day.